thanks for stopping by the channel. Please make sure that you have subscribed, that you're checking out the little bell icon, and that you're getting notifications on all my content when it comes up. If I sound down today, it's because I have a very heavy heart. In the last week, the United States has seen two major news coverage stories about mass shootings. We had one last week where a man entered several different massage parlors in Georgia and gunned down numerous people. By his own admission, it was not an act of overt ethnic hatred. It was due to twisted and corrupt sexual struggle of his own. And he lashed out at innocent people. Yesterday, another individual entered a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado, and gunned down 10 people. And of course, the media and leftist Marxist politicians have already begun to beat the war drum of gun control. They identified the gun that the man in Colorado used yesterday before they identified the man. The concern that I have is not one of, look, we're going to fight the gun control battle for the rest of the history of the United States. There are people who have a desire to, should we say, end the ability of private citizens to carry firearms. And when people in elected positions are adamant that no person who is a private citizen should be allowed to carry a firearm for any reason, there's only one reason why they do that. It's because they want the ability to control you. And if they can control you, they can only do it when you're unable to defend yourself or protect yourself from tyranny. But that's not what this video is about. First thing I want to do now is address the names of the victims of the two mass shootings in the last week. I'm going to start with Georgia. We have Delaina Ashley Yaun, 33. I don't know how to say this name. I'm gonna butcher it. Xiaojie Tan, 49. Dai Yo Feng, 44. Paul Andre Michels, 54. Elcias Hernandez-Ortiz, 30. Hyun Young Grant, 51. Sun Chung Park, 74. Suncha Kim, 69. Yong Ae Yue, 63. These are the victims in Colorado's mass shooting yesterday. Denny Stong, 20. Neven Stanisic, 23. Rikki Olds, 25. Tralona Bratkowiak, 49. Suzanne Fountain, 59. Teri Leiker, 51. Talley, 51. Mahoney, 61. Lynn Murray, 62. Jody Waters, 65. The reason that mass shootings occur is not because of the ability of people to get their hands on guns. Certainly, if there were no guns, there would be no mass gun violence. But the reason that the Georgia Spa shootings and the King Super shooting took place had nothing to do with guns. It has everything to do with corrupt, evil, wicked hearts. See, we're never going to stop mass murder. We're never going to stop the perpetration of mass violence. Guns or no guns. Some of the greatest acts of violence in the history of the world were committed by people without guns. Now, consider the Nazi regime. Sure, the soldiers in the Nazi law enforcement, the Nazi police, had guns and were able to corral people because of it. But they also were dealing with an unarmed victim class. See, the Nazis were evil. They had evil hearts. And they hated people for nothing more than their ethnic background. And they murdered millions and millions of people with nothing more than poison gas. The Ottoman Turks murdered millions of people for nothing more than their religious perspectives, and they didn't use guns. The French Revolutionary forces murdered millions of people, or excuse me, not millions, murdered thousands of people, and they didn't use guns. They used swords and guillotines. The people who perpetrated the Salem witch trials murdered many people, and they never used a single gun. The Spanish Inquisition murdered thousands of people, and they never used a single gun. The United States murders millions of preborn babies. Since Roe v. Wade, it's been millions and millions and millions of babies have been murdered in the womb, and it's not been with a gun. See, murder is not a gun issue. Murder is not a gas issue. Murder is not an abortion issue. Murder isn't a knife issue. Murder isn't a bomb issue. Murder is a heart issue. People murder because they hate. The man who killed all these people in Colorado yesterday hated them. He didn't know them, but he hated them because of what they were, because of where they were from, because of his perceived his perception of their position being Americans. They were deserving of murder. The people that were murdered in Georgia were murdered because of where they were. And the man who murdered them because he hated himself for his sexual addictions. It's a heart issue. And as long as our culture and as long as our society continues to focus on the means by which people murder, and does everything it can to take away the means by which people murder, we're going to continue to have mass murder because we're not addressing the heart conditions. Jesus Christ, in his Sermon on the Mount, was preaching to people, and he said, "You have heard it said of days of old that you shall not commit murder. But I tell you, if you so much as hate another in your heart, you are already guilty of murder." See, we foster hate in the United States today. We foster this. And part of it is because we won't address hatred when we see it. And we overuse the phrase or the word hate for everything now. If you don't take a right position, you hate the person that you disagree with in the eyes of our culture and our society. So now we don't know what hate is until it works its way out in violence. And we have got to address what hate really is. And we can get into the depths of mental health concerns and mental health issues here in the United States, and I think those things need to be addressed. Nobody walks into a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado, and starts shooting the place up simply because they're having a bad day. And it isn't just a heart condition issue, but it is primarily a heart condition issue. But you don't shoot up a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado, and you don't shoot up massage parlors or spas in Georgia or in Atlanta, or wherever it might be, simply because you have hate or some form of hatred in your heart. You have some mental health issues, and those things need to be addressed. But until the United States gets good at two things: one, helping people who are struggling with mental health issues, and two, addressing the heart conditions that lead to this kind of violent and wicked and evil crimes against humanity, it will not matter how many guns we take off the streets. It will not matter how many laws that we pass about gun violence. These things will continue to happen. And as we saw in Oklahoma City, you don't need a gun to murder hundreds of people. You just need the bomb material, the wherewithal to get it accomplished, and the wickedness in your heart to get it done. We have got to stop making these moments political, and we have got to start focusing on fixing what's wrong with our society and with our culture. And until people who are in elected positions learn to shut up and let the people who need to grieve, nothing's ever going to get better. Barack Obama had to weigh in on this today, talking about how he grieves with the families who are grieving in Colorado and he grieves with the families who are grieving in Georgia. But then he goes on to turn it into a political battering ram. Barack Obama, this isn't about the guns. It's not about the guns. I don't care what position you take on firearms. It's not about the guns. It's about ethnic hatred in our hearts. It's about hatred for humanity, our fellow man, and it doesn't matter what color of skin people have. If you want to murder somebody, you hate them. And it's no more severe if you're doing it because they're male or female, black or white, Asian or Hispanic. If you want to murder people, you're a bad person. And if the only thing that you can focus on is whether or not it was based on someone's ethnicity or whether or not it was an evil type of gun that you don't understand and you don't like, you're a bad person. because you're making an excuse for the evilness of people. You're making an excuse for our society failing people who need mental health help. And there are literally thousands of them out there. Would you feel better if this man walked into King's Super yesterday and stabbed 10 people to death? Would you be happier with that? And don't tell me it can't happen, because it's happened in Minnesota, in a mall. People, it's not about guns. And using this to advance your agenda says more about how evil and wicked your heart is than you would ever want to admit. We should be mourning. But we shouldn't be mourning because gun violence happened. We should be mourning because people who are made in the image of God have lost their lives yet again, because we aren't focusing on the real causes of these hateful crimes. Mental health and the evil that exists in the hearts of every human being alive. Remember the victims.